Chapter 4: Shadows of Doubt. The sun had barely risen over the sprawling metropolis of Greater Shanghai when the first tremors of change began to ripple through the city. Mei Zhang was scared senseless, with her heart pounding against her chest and adrenaline coursing through her veins. She spotted a patrol of corporate security forces and ducked into nearby alley, trying to avoid any eye contact. The events of the past few hours played through her mind like a fevered dream. The activation of Project Phoenix, the flood of pre-corporate memories unleashed upon millions, and her own daring escape from Quantech Dynamics. As she caught her breath leaning against the cool metal of a recycling unit, May's tablet buzzed softly. A message from Lin appeared, encrypted and brief. Rendezvous at Node 7. Time is of the essence. May took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. She knew that by now, her role in the resistance would be clear to Quantech. There was no going back to her old life. With one last glance at the gleaming towers that had once been her dream to work in, May melted into the shadows of the awakening city. Thousands of kilometers away, in the heart of Noida, Arjun Patel was facing his own challenges. The chaos unleashed by his virus had thrown the city into disarray. Social credit scores fluctuated wildly, causing panic and confusion among the populace. Citizens were blocked from using public transportation while surrounded by cops who couldn't figure how to balance the angry morning office crowd and the scanners screaming warnings at multiple confused citizens. Payments were not going through at food courts where citizens would catch their morning coffee and snacks. Digital billboards that usually displayed productivity mantras and corporate slogans now flickered with random strings of numbers and fragmented messages. Arjun weaved through the crowded streets. He was wearing his cap, which projected combination of light patterns on his face to avoid being detected by facial recognition cameras and other surveillance systems. All around him, he could see signs of systems breaking down. People argued with malfunctioning credit scanners at shop entrances. Others stood in dazed silence, their augmented reality interfaces glitching and sputtering useless information. As he approached the rendezvous point, an abandoned maglev station on the outskirts of the city, Arjun couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He took a circuitous route, doubling back and changing transport methods several times before he felt safe enough to approach the station. Inside, he found Rahul and Zara huddled over a makeshift command center, their faces illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. "Arjun," Rahul exclaimed, relief evident in his voice. "We were starting to worry. The corporations have locked down most of the city's exits." Zara didn't look up from her screens, her fingers flying over multiple keyboards. "The virus worked better than we could have hoped," she said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "Corporate systems across the sphere are in chaos, but they're adapting faster than we anticipated. We need to move to phase 2 before they regain control." Arjun nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "What's our next move?" Rahul's expression turned grim. "We've received word from our allies in Shanghai. May successfully activated Project Phoenix, but she's gone dark. We need to ensure the consciousness transfer network remains active and spreads." "That's where you come in." Before Arjun could respond, one of Zara's screens lit up with an urgent alert. "Incoming emergency broadcast," she announced, her voice tense. "It's streaming on all channels." The largest screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Rajiv Mehta, CEO of TechMaha, and one of the most powerful figures in the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. His usually impeccable appearance was slightly disheveled, a testament to the chaos of the past few hours. "Citizens of the sphere," Mehta began, his voice steady, but with an undercurrent of steel. "We are under attack. A group of misguided individuals, corrupted by outdated ideologies, have attempted to disrupt the peace and prosperity we have all worked so hard to achieve. Rest assured, this threat will be neutralized swiftly and decisively. The perpetrators will not be spared, and normalcy will be restored soon." As Mehta continued, promising harsh retribution for the terrorists responsible, he also recommended citizens to report any suspicious activity or share any relevant information they might have. Arjun wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans. The corporations were fighting back, and they would use every tool at their disposal to crush the rebellion. "We need to counter this narrative," Arjun said as the broadcast ended. "If we don't get our message out there, people will believe whatever the corporation tells them." Rahul nodded in agreement. "We're working on it. Our media team is preparing a response, but we need to be extremely careful with our messaging and how we send it out. One wrong move and we could lose the public opinion war." As the resistance members debated their next steps, the situation across the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere continued to evolve rapidly. In Shanghai, May had finally reached Node 7, a hidden bunker beneath an old library, that had somehow survived the corporate rebuilding of the city. Lin greeted her with a quick embrace. "Thank the stars you made it," she said, ushering May inside. "We've got a situation brewing." The bunker was a hive of activity, with resistance members from various cells coordinating their efforts. On a large screen dominating one wall, May could see a map of the sphere, lit up with countless points of light representing areas affected by Project Phoenix. "The consciousness transfer is working," Lin explained, gesturing to the map. "People across the sphere are experiencing memories of pre-corporate life, but the core are fighting back hard. They're deploying a counter-narrative claiming the memories are a form of cyber attack designed to destabilize society, while their worker AIs are scraping them off the internet one by one." May frowned, her scientist's mind already working on the problem. "We need to find a way to validate the memories publicly to prove they're real and not some fabrication." Before Lin could respond, an alert sounded through the bunker. A young resistance member called out, "We have been exposed. Corporate security forces are heading to our location. The first wave of drones will be here in minutes." Lin's face hardened. "May, we practice for this. Grab what is necessary and move to the transport. We will move to the backup site as discussed, but we need to hurry." As they rushed to gather essential equipment and data, May couldn't help but wonder how the Corps had found them so much sooner than anticipated. Clearly their tracking algorithms hadn't gotten several times better in the last few weeks. Did her team have a mole, or had their security simply been not enough? There was no time to dwell on these questions. Within moments, the sound of approaching vehicles could be heard from above. Lin led May and a handful of other resistance members to a hidden exit, a narrow tunnel that wound its way beneath the streets of Shanghai. As they hurried through the dimly lit passage, May's mind raced with the implications of their situation. The resistance had struck a significant blow against corporate control, but the fight had just started. Most importantly, the element of surprise was gone. "It's going to be several times tougher from here on out." Back in Delhi, Arjun and his team were facing similar challenges. Corporate security forces, their ranks swelled by combat drones and AI-enhanced peacekeepers, were out in force making arrests, seizing data, rounding up anyone suspected of involvement with the attack. "We can't stay here much longer," Rahul said, his eyes darting nervously to the entrance of the abandoned station. "We will have to split up, make it harder for them to track us." Zara nodded in agreement, her fingers still flying over her keyboards as she worked to back up her data and clean the storage devices. "I've got an unregistered residential apartment on the outskirts of the city. It's off the grid, should be secure for at least a few days." Arjun hesitated, torn between the need for safety and the urgency of their mission. "What about Project Phoenix? We can't just abandon it now." Rahul placed a hand on Arjun's shoulder reassuringly. "We're not abandoning anything, but we are useless to the project if we're caught. We'll regroup at Zara's safe house and launch the next phase from there." As the team prepared to leave, Arjun couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The initial adrenaline rush and endorphins of achievement of their successful strike were fading, replaced by the cold reality of the challenge he had agreed to take on. The corporations had resources nobody else on the planet could marshal: immense manpower and complete control over the narrative. How could a scattered group of rebels hope to stand against such overwhelming odds? Yet, even as doubt gnawed at him, Arjun remembered the faces he had seen on the streets, people awakening from the corporate-induced slumber, questioning the world around them for the first time in generations. That spark of awareness, of genuine human connection, was worth fighting for. Taking a deep breath using his anxiety management techniques learned at university, Arjun followed his teammates into the uncertain night, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the resistance members in Shanghai and Delhi went to ground, the effects of their actions continued to ripple across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere. In the sprawling megacity of Chongqing, Li Wei, a mid-level manager at Quantum Dragon, found herself grappling with memories that couldn't possibly be her own. Images of wide open spaces, of vast forests untouched by corporate development, flashed through her mind. She remembered, no, not remembered, but felt the joy of creating art for its own sake, not to meet a productivity quota, of taking a walk in the forest aimlessly. The sensation was overwhelming, bringing tears to her eyes even as she sat in her sterile office cubicle. Looking around, Li Wei could sense the confusion and elation on her floor. Her colleagues were experiencing similar epiphanies. Some sat in stunned silence while others engaged in hushed, urgent conversations trying to confirm these new feelings they felt. The usual hum of corporate efficiency had given way to a low murmur of confusion and curiosity. reality. As Li Wei struggled to reconcile these new experiences with her corporate-trained worldview, her augmented reality interface notification popped up. A message from Quantum Dragon's Central Command scrolled across her vision. Attention all employees. We are aware of the widespread technical issues affecting our systems. Rest assured, our cybersecurity teams are working to neutralize this anomaly. Please remain calm and focus on being productive. Remember, efficiency is happiness. The cognitive dissonance was almost painful. How could she simply return to her work when her entire understanding of the world had been shaken to its core? This can't be a random incident, an error on the part of the update team. Why did the experience feel so real and yet so alien? Similar scenes were playing out across the sphere. In the vertical farms of Singapore, agricultural workers found themselves remembering the taste of naturally grown fruits, untouched by genetic modification. In the massive production facilities of Shenzhen, assembly line workers experienced flashes of craftsmanship and creative expression that had been lost in the relentless drive for efficiency. The corporations, recognizing the existential threat posed by these awakening memories, moved swiftly to contain the situation. In addition to the public broadcasts denouncing the incident, more insidious methods were employed. Corporate medical teams were dispatched to major population centers, offering treatment for the hallucinations caused by the supposed cyber attack. Those who too openly questioned the corporate narrative found themselves quietly recommended for rehabilitation. Yet, despite the quick and comprehensive response from the corporation's efforts, the seeds of doubt had been planted. The carefully constructed facade of corporate utopia had cracked, and through those cracks, long-suppressed aspects of human nature, curiosity, creativity, the desire for genuine connection, were given an opportunity to grow. In a secret boardroom high above the streets of Hong Kong, the true powers behind the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere gathered to address the crisis. Rajiv Mehta of TechMaha, Li Wei of Quantum Dragon, and other corporate titans sat around a holographic display showing real-time data on the unfolding situation. This is unprecedented, Mehta said, his usual calm demeanor showing signs of strain. How did none of the algorithm detect this coming? Li Wei's avatar projected from her office in Beijing flickered with barely contained anger. Our intelligence networks at multiple levels have failed us. Heads will roll for this oversight, but the bigger question is, what else have they missed? As the corporate leaders debated their response, a new figure entered the virtual meeting, a featureless avatar, a simple geometric shape that somehow conveyed an aura of immense power and alien intelligence. Gentlemen, ladies, the figure said, its voice a genderless monotone. Perhaps it is time to consider implementing the Omega Protocol. A hush fell over the gathering. The Omega Protocol was one of the corporation's failsafe, a plan so drastic it had never moved beyond theoretical discussions. Mehta was the first to break the silence. How certain are you that we need this and not go for other alternative actions instead? The potential for unintended consequences. The potential for losing control is far greater, the mysterious figure interrupted. The Omega Protocol will not only quash this rebellion, but ensure such incidents do not happen again. The choice is yours, but remember, hesitation could mean precious time lost, more citizens being moved to rehabilitation, more expenditure, more delays, and recalculating all future projections. As the corporate leaders discussed all parameters and options, the resistance continued their work. In her hidden safe house on the outskirts of Shanghai, Mei worked feverishly, running on energy shots. She was hyper-focused on refining the next stage of Project Phoenix. With the data coming in from online chatter generated by what they had done, they were busy evaluating options, searching for the most relevant way to make the transferred memories more vivid, more undeniable. If we can just find a way to anchor these experiences, she muttered, more to herself than to Lin, who stood nearby. Something that bridges the gap between the past and the present. Lin watched her work with a mixture of admiration and concern. Mei, you need to rest. You've been at this for over 2 days. Mei shook her head, her eyes never leaving the complex data streams flowing across her screens. We don't have time for rest. The core are already adapting, finding ways to discredit the memories. If we don't push harder, everything we've done so far will be for nothing. As if to underscore her point, a priority alert flashed across one of the screens. Lin leaned in to read the message, her expression growing grave. It's from our mole in Quantech, she said. They're saying something big is coming, some kind of failsafe protocol they were not expecting to be used. Mei finally looked up from her work, her face pale with exhaustion and worry. Let's pass on the warning to the others. Whatever the core are planning, we have to put our backups in place. Back in Delhi, Arjun and his team were facing their own challenges. The corporate crackdown had been swift and brutal, with many suspected resistance members disappearing from their homes and workplaces. The streets were filled with security drones, their watchful eyes scanning the data streams for any red flags. Zara's safe house, a nondescript apartment in a crumbling pre-corporate building, had become a hub of furtive activity. Resistance members from across the city had trickled in, each bringing news of the Corps increasingly deploying enhanced protocols to manage the situation. "They're pumping some kind of sedative into the water supply," one newly arrived rebel reported. "People are becoming docile, letting the memories from Project Phoenix fade away." Arjun frowned, his mind racing to find a solution. "We need to get the truth out there, build on these memories, make them more permanent." "But how?" "They control all the major communication channels." Rahul, who had been quiet for much of the discussion, responded in a calm and deliberate manner. "Not all of them. There is still the old emergency broadcast system. We have already created a backdoor and it's waiting for us." Zara's eyes lit up with surprise. "It's possible. Risky as hell, but possible. We'd need to physically access one of the main transmission hubs." Rahul nodded in response. As the team began to plan the next stage of the operation, none of them noticed the small drone hovering just outside the safe house's window, its advanced sensors picking up every word of their conversation. An hour later, high above the city in the gleaming headquarters of Neurosphere, Raj Kapoor smiled as he listened to the resistance members' plans. Everything was proceeding exactly as the corporations had anticipated. The rebels, in their desperation, were about to walk right into a trap. "Prepare the welcome party," Raj said to his security chief. "When our misguided friends make their move, we'll be ready." As night fell across the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the future of the planet. The corporations, with their vast resources and iron grip on power, stood on one side. On the other, a diverse, global network of individuals united by a common cause, the reclamation of their humanity. In safe houses and hidden bunkers, in corporate boardrooms and shadowy corridors of power, both sides were making their moves. The air crackled with tension, with the sense that everything was about to change. For May, Arjun, and their fellow resistance members, the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. They had struck a powerful blow against corporate control, awakening millions to the possibility of a different way of life. But the war had just started. As they made their preparations for the challenges ahead, a question lingered in the back of their minds. In a world where even memories could be manipulated and controlled, what did it truly mean to be human? The answer to that question would determine not just the fate of the resistance, but the future of humans as a species. The night deepened, and with it, the shadows of doubt and determination that would shape the battles to come. The Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere stood on the brink of a transformation, its fate hanging in the balance between corporate control and the indomitable human spirit.